Why take one vacation with the family when you could take all of them? With Royal Caribbean, you don't just go to the beach. You visit a private island and race down the tallest water slide in North America. You don't just go for a road trip. You ATV and zip line through the jungle. You don't just go somewhere new. You rappel down waterfalls and discover ancient temples. Because this isn't just any vacation. This is all the vacations. Come seek the Royal Caribbean. Ships Registry, Bahamas.
This episode is brought to you by Bumble, who says Valentine's Day is just for couples. Just because you're not in a relationship doesn't mean you can't get out there and live your best love life. That's where Bumble comes in. This February 14th, you can flip the script and give those relationshipers a friendly dose of FOMO. Say no to staying in this Valentine's Day and yes to more. More dates, more first kisses, more gossip for the group chat girlies. Do Valentine's your way. Date now on Bumble.
Welcome back to White People Problems, a OC recap podcast where we talk about everything and nothing at the same time, it seems. My name is Joe.
And I am Matt, and we are joined by our first guest in show history. 4 episodes in, and we have a guest. I am a longtime fan of this person's writing and podcasting, Erin Mallory Long.
Hi, thank you for having me.
Of course. I've heard you bring up the OC on multiple podcasts in my life, and I thought, I think I know someone who would want to do this show. I didn't expect you to be like, I want to do quite literally the next episode we were supposed to record. So this came together much quicker than I thought it was going to. But let's talk about, well, first I want to know why this episode, why the debut?
As soon as I haven't rewatched the OC in a very long time, but as soon as you asked me like what episodes, this is the first thing that came to my mind. And it's because it's so weird to me. Like, I'm from upstate New York. Like, we don't have this. Like, we don't have this like rich people like Orange County stuff. And I was like, is this real? Like, do they have a cotillion? Is this made up? I thought it was made up from like Little Women days. Like, I was like, what's going on? Like, what is this? And it's always stuck out to me. And I didn't realize until watching Laguna Beach that this was real, because they have a cotillion in Laguna Beach too. And I was like,
Erin, the cotillion is the most important night of the year.
The adults.
In the 4th episode, the most important night of the year.
So you can stop watching after this.
Rest.
You've seen the peak. Well, Erin, I am so excited to have you on. I hinted at this on the last episode we just recorded with the Casino Night episode.
Oh my God.
Just from a strictly storytelling perspective, I want to know your thoughts on this, because I feel like episode 4 is way too early to reveal this entire Jimmy's money laundering situation. Like, that feels like a mid-summer break episode where like you send people spending a couple months wondering like what's going to happen next.
Yeah, we're a cool month in. So what, it debuts in August, right? So it's like still technically summer. It's September. Like and already it's like mid-season finale cliffhanger.
They haven't started attending school yet. Like, it's it's still summer break for them, for the characters. No, I rewatched all the episodes leading up to this, which is only 3, but that's what I did yesterday. So in the pilot, even, I couldn't believe that they were hinting at the Jimmy stuff. I was like, oh wow, this happened so fast. Like, I knew that it happened in this episode, in the debut. I knew that a lot of stuff happened in this episode, and I knew that was a big plot point in this. I didn't realize how much stuff happens in this episode, though. Like, Anna gets introduced, which is like such a huge part of season. I kind of forgot she was in season 1. I was like, oh my God, like, she's here already. Like, there was just like so many things that come up. And I'm sitting here racking my brain trying to remember how they resolve. Like, is Tate Donovan never on the show again? I don't remember, because I was like, this is so early for all of this to be going on. But it's the OC where like by the 4th season, it's an unrecognizable show. So like, it's like from that perspective, it makes sense, because you're just like, well, a lot of stuff has to happen. And these are 22 episode seasons too. So it's like, how do you get through this? Like, what else is going to happen? But it turns out a lot of stuff is going to happen.
You have no clue how exciting it is to start a podcast where I know that we won't even make it to 100 episodes, like just by the nature of the show. I'm like, this is great. A year and a half I have to dedicate to doing this show.
Yeah,
not
totally.
a problem. Cakewalk.
Totally.
Perfect. So let's talk about the Anna of it all real quick, because the Anna piece of this put me through so many different thoughts throughout the whole time. Because first of all, Anna Stern shows up. I don't know anything about this character. I know nothing about this person. And my first thought is, wow, I like have an instant crush on this girl, but I feel like that's creepy because they're high schoolers. Do some quick Googling. Oh, she's like a 24-year-old woman playing a 17-year-old.
Yeah.
Weird casting choice. Then I learned more about the actress, and whatever attraction I had just plummets instantly, because I'm like, she's a conservative, like running for like Senate in Arizona right now, and like a hardcore Trump ally. And I'm like, no, Anna Stern.
It's bad.
I totally forgot about that.
So there's all of that. And then the more Anna Stern talked, the more I was like, this girl's not a very good actress. Like, I don't know what it is, but there's nothing about her delivery that's believable. And I feel like the character herself like fell into this category where I'm like, on one hand, I'm sure like having a really attractive comic book nerd was like empowering to other attractive comic book nerds who had to deal with like, all right, name 4 Spider-Man stories or whatever. But it also like created another like manic pixie dream girl for incels to like put on a pedestal. So I'm like, God, there's so many conflicting thoughts like running through my head about this character. I know from doing the Google search on the actress that I will see more of Anna Stern. I don't know how much more, but like I am so intrigued but like frustrated with this character already.
Yeah, I think that's fair. I never liked her, is what I remember from watching this. I don't know if it's like a weird jealousy thing on my part. You know what I mean? Like, I was like, when the OC was on, I was in college and obsessed with it. And I was in film school at NYU. So I knew a lot of girls who were exactly her. And
oh no.
I'm not like, I'm not that thing. Like there was like a bunch of girls who like, you know, they had like dyed hair and stuff in college. And it's like, that's who everyone in film school like is into. So me as like an insecure 18-year-old is like, fuck you. Like, I don't like that kind of like you don't have to be that way. Like I would get teased for my like Friends DVDs, for instance, you know, before the whole series was even finished airing. And it's like, oh, well, yeah, okay. She just knows comic books. Great. Like I love Star Wars. Who cares? Like, so I think I have that, like, I have never liked her. And I always liked Summer because she's just like sarcastic and a brunette and stuff. So I was just always like, Summer. I like Summer. I hate Anna.
So I'll tell you right now, at this point in the show, I do not get the Summer appeal. And it's actually made me like Seth Cohen less, because I'm like, this is who you've like dedicated your entire life to, this person who seems like a legitimate monster roaming Newport Beach.
It makes no sense for the first couple episodes. All Rachel Bilson does is show up in a bikini and say like the most ditzy airheaded thing that you've ever heard in your life. And you're like, what?
She says ill?
Or just straight up the meanest thing. Like,
or
she'll
mean.
just be
or
fucking mean. Like, it's infuriating. And I'm like, I like you, Seth. And like, Seth is obviously, if you're a remotely nerdy person, he's the only person you can cling to as a male in this show anyway. So it's like, I'm watching it, and I think there's a part, like kind of how you have that jealousy towards Anna Stern. I have that anger at like, knowing that in high school I was definitely this guy interested in girls that were not interested in me. And it was, to quote a thing that you've literally said on your show that was a quote from your mom, like, attraction can only go so far. Like, that was almost my entire high school crush, was just
Yeah.
like, she's cute. We have zero things in common. She
Yeah.
treats everybody like garbage, but look at how pretty she is.
No, I don't know how they ended up deciding to make Summer like a series regular, because that's the whole thing. She wasn't supposed to be at the beginning. She's just a guest star. She wasn't supposed to like keep being on the show. So it's like, I don't know when this is the character. I guess it's just behind the scenes. They like Rachel Bilson and they're like, how about we give you something to work with instead of nothing? Like,
Yeah. Because then she becomes part of the core four,
Right.
which like is bonkers because like they gave her nothing in the beginning. And I was telling Matt in the previous episode, I was like, look, I love Summer at the end because she, besides Ryan, she has like the most defined arc, like in terms of the entire, like the breadth of the series, which I kind of love. But also, I mean, part of that's also because like, you know, casting choices happen at the end of season 3. I don't know how much Matt knows. So
I don't know.
Yes,
All
totally.
I know is that every person that I've spoken to has been like, you could stop at the end of season 3. You don't have to rewatch season
Correct.
4 for this. But
you are correct. So it doesn't make any sense. But like, here's the thing: Rachel Bilson is actually pretty great.
Yes.
Like this is, you know, so it makes sense in that regard. They kind of like Jesse Pinkman her,
Yes.
right? Like they're like, we'll just make him a series regular, and now the entire and give him like by the end of the show, like he becomes the character that we identify with the most.
Yeah, totally. It's just so, I mean, truly is just in a bikini the whole time.
Mhm.
It's sort of remarkable. Like, it's just like she just shows up and is in a bikini and it's like, why?
what did I write down? There was something I wrote down about that. Oh, no, it's not her, actually. It's Holly. I said, Holly just casually grilling with a cocktail in one hand while wearing a bikini is the most insane shit I've seen today. Like, it is. And it's like this tiny ass charcoal grill, which like, I am so far from a manly man at all, but if you have that many people over that you're grilling for, that tiny ass charcoal grill is not going to cut it. Like you're trying to serve like 50 people with that thing. It's going to take hours.
Also, what teen house party is grilling anyway? Like,
Thank you. No one's eating food.
why would you?
Oh God, I
like,
think
that
I
doesn't
wrote
make any
"summer
sense.
sucks" 4 different times that way. My notes as I'm like looking at this.
No, she's terrible, but she gets good. And this is not a spoiler, but just something to look forward to. She says this line that I say all the time. It's in a long time, which is just like where she's like saying something and then she's like, I'm sorry, I just had a rage blackout. Like,
Yes.
like I say that all the time.
I spent a lot of the last episode complaining about how I just could not handle the over-the-top melodrama of the casino night sequences. I feel completely differently about this entire episode. Like, by the end, the final note that I had written down was just, Sandy Cohen is my biggest crush on this show right now.
Yeah.
Like, he is from the start, I've been like worshiping this character, but like the arc that we get to see just in this episode of like, when we get to the point where him and Ryan are just sitting on the floor playing video games, like my heart is so full of joy that I'm just like, I love everything that's happening right now.
I know. And I've never watched The OC as a parent, right? I have 2 little kids now. And so I'm watching the end of Casino Night and then the beginning of this crying, just fully crying because I'm just like, oh no, she's just trying to be his mom. Like, it's so bad. So I am having like a very different experience watching the show now as a grown-up, as a mom, where I'm just like, Sandy is the best dad. I'm so glad that Kirsten and Sandy took him in. This is so beautiful. Like, he's going to be part of their family. Like, just such a different experience. Such a different experience watching this now.
Well,
You just need to get like a TikTok of your kids like doing "I'll unpack later" and then just, you know, weeping.
Too much.
I love in the very beginning of this episode, Sandy and Kirsten sit down and try to explain to Ryan, like, hey, like, we're going to become your legal guardians, but that like means all of these things. And Ryan's like, but what if you decide you don't want me? Like, something bad could happen. And Sandy's like, what, you burn down a house or steal a car or punch the polo captain? Like, and it's just a beautiful reminder of how much insane shit has happened in 3 episodes of this show.
It's only episode 4.
It's only episode 4. And it just gets crazier. I mean, it's like I was sitting there being like, oh yeah, I forgot that this happens in the OC and then this and then that. It's like it goes completely off the rails.
My only knowledge of this show is legitimately the Chrismica episode that I've watched prior and like the what you say shot.
Yes.
Like that is it. Like I know nothing else.
Just wait until you get to Olivia Wilde.
Olivia Wilde's in this show.
In season 2.
This is chaos. But let's talk about debutante balls because that is such a creepy, strange thing that like has never made sense to me and continues to not make sense to me after watching this show as well.
Anything where you're taking teen girls and putting them in white gowns, I'm immediately like, this is a big red flag.
Yes.
What are you doing? I went to college with someone who went to a very small high school in Kentucky. Like their class was like 20 kids or something. Like she graduated with 20 kids. Their graduation looked like this. All the girls in white dresses. And she's like showing me pictures. And I was like, what? And it looks exactly like this. I'm like, so you had a debutante ball. Like,
yes,
your
as
graduation.
So
yes.
The only other time that I've ever heard of a debutante ball was actually in the cartoon The Critic, where there's an episode where his sister has to go to the debutante ball. And I remember it having this joke where I obviously did not get it as a kid, but rewatching the show in college was like, that is a racy joke for The Critic, was that they're getting the gown ready and the person that's like putting together the dress like asks all the parents to leave and talks to the sister and is like,
we dressmakers have a very strict code, so I need to know, do you deserve to wear virginal white? Because if you don't, you'll have to wear an off-white, what we call a hussy white. So which will it be? White?
Yes. Except for the gloves.
I do not remember The Critic well enough. Obviously.
Oh, I have watched The Critic quite a few times because for a really long time, my favorite Simpsons episode was the one where The Critic showed up.
I love
So I was
that
like,
episode.
oh, my 2 favorite things have joined forces in one show.
Yep. That was that and the X-Files Simpsons. That was the experience I had.
You're like, oh, they're here. they made it in there. God, so this is, to me, though, this episode so far is for me where Seth Cohen is really starting to shine. When he introduces himself as just Seth Cohen, White Knight, I'm like, great intro, gonna steal that. But I could watch like a 10-hour loop of Seth Cohen doing dance moves in front of Ryan, like, no problem. Like, whatever that little, like, jaunty robot move was that he did, I'm like, I'm into this. Like,
I know.
Like secretly me being like, just kiss.
Yeah.
Just kiss. Just kiss. Like as like fully closeted teen, just kiss. Just kiss.
I love them so much. I love their relationship so much. That makes me cry too. Everything makes me cry now. I love their relationship so much. It's just so nice. And like when I watched the show, I was very into Seth. Like I was like, oh yeah, Seth is cute. I don't really care about Ryan that much. I'm not into this like bad boy trope or whatever. But now watching it, I love Ben McKenzie so much that I'm like, I love Ryan. He's my favorite one.
There
Erin.
are some top-notch lines in this though, with specifically the Ryan Sethness of it all. So like, of course, the Luke Ryan stuff is not over. I thought, oh wow, they've already resolved their fight by Luke saving Ryan from this fire. Couldn't be more wrong. It looks like this is just going to continue forever. But they get into a fight, and Ryan doesn't throw a punch, and says, "Wow, you didn't even fight back. You really are a Cohen now," which is a good line. But then the cutest exchange between the two of them for me is when Ryan is explaining that he doesn't want to go to the debutante ball because he's like, look, Luke's going to be there. I don't want to make trouble for your family. I don't want to have to fight him. And Seth goes, but like you could kick his ass though, right? And Ryan just goes, yeah. He just goes, cool. Like, it's like he's so impressed. Like the admiration that Seth Cohen clearly has for everything that Ryan is heartwarming as hell to me.
Yeah. So first of all, Erin, we're sisters because my COVID rewatch of the OC, I was like, here a couple things happened. One, I'm like, okay, I love Ben McKenzie. I don't know what this is how I know I've matured. I am an adult now, is that I see Ben McKenzie. And the other reason I know I've matured, and this is not so much a spoiler for Matt, but like Julie Cooper is my favorite character, and she's just doing her best to be a mother.
Yeah.
Like she's literally just doing her best. I don't know as an actual mother, I just don't know how you feel. But in this moment, in this episode, all she wants is all she cares about is like, hey, just don't, like, I'm from Riverside, girl, like you marry, marry correct. She's giving Rose's mom from Titanic, right?
Totally.
Yeah. And I'm
Same
still
vibes.
firmly, I do not like Julie Cooper, and now I officially don't really like Jimmy Cooper that much either. I was standing up for him last week, but that faded real quick.
I know.
Week.
What happened, Joshua? What happened?
Joshua. I love how Sandy is just like, fuck that guy. Immediately. Like Sandy finds out what he did and he's like, no, I hate him. Like that's right.
But I absolutely get like where he's like, I don't want to go to a fucking meeting where all these people are going to treat this piece of shit like he's a hero when they find out the whole fucking city's going to burn.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
But so here's the other thing I wrote down though, because I'm so glad that I watched these two episodes back to back, because the amount of shade that the entire town of Newport is throwing on Ryan's mom for being tipsy and falling over, and then there is a full-blown fist fight in the middle of a debutante that has nothing to do with Ryan's family whatsoever, and no one blinks a goddamn eye at that happening. I was like, this is insane.
That was crazy. But also, I mean, it is interesting, as we were talking about before, from a storytelling perspective, like, why didn't they let us see Jimmy Cooper being the like good guy of Newport for a couple episodes? We never see him like that. We only see him with the SEC knocking on his door in episode 1. So it's like, that's the only, I think the pilot is near perfect, but that's the only thing, like, I think you could have had it more set up like Jimmy palling around, like being a big shot, and then show that it's like a house of cards.
Even if you revealed to us the information that Sandy and Kirsten know in this episode, but don't let the rest of the town find out in the same episode, like you could have stretched that out 3 or 4 more episodes where, like you said, you're just seeing this hero worship of Jimmy.
Totally.
And it's like, oh, and just seeing like Sandy just stewing on that even more and more and more, because then when he actually defends him, it would mean more.
Right. Totally. Yeah, totally. It's just,
I think not knowing the writers, right? I wasn't there. I wasn't there in the room. But the thing that's interesting, right, is that where we see Jimmy being like the Prince of Newport, right, is in the moments where he's interacting with Kirsten, because they do have this history. They grew up together. They were high school sweethearts. They were, I think it's actually mentioned in an episode. I don't know if we've seen it or if it's coming up, but like they were basically like the Prince and Princess of Newport. And so to see how his good guy image is put with her, because she's also, the main one of our main characters as well. So it's interesting how we get that, and he's also like it's Tate Donovan. He's got those big eyes. He like looks pathetic.
Yeah.
And it's just it's so endearing, even though he's like basically Bernie Madoff all of Newport, right?
I mean, truly, like that's truly what he's doing. It's just sort of, I guess it is just like the Tate Donovan of it, because I have the same reaction to him, because I like him from Friends and from that small, story arc he has on Friends. And so I'm like, oh, Tate Donovan's on the show. Cute.
Yeah. But I really do think where last week's episode, I was like, man, the third act really like hurts this whole episode. It's the complete opposite to me. I think this third act like builds to absolute perfection.
Yeah.
Even with the Jimmy aspect like being way too early in the storyline for all of that to happen. Like I got such a weird satisfaction out of seeing Seth just straight up diss Summer for Anna. I was like, this feels great. Like Summer has treated him like shit this whole episode, like loving it.
I'm just gonna go, and it's like the shittiest way to do it too. It's like I'm gonna go this, like, no, just a completely immature. Like that's the thing where I'm like, okay, it works for him.
Yeah.
Like his quirkiness works, and just the sailing to Tahiti thing.
Yeah.
Like, first of all, like, as someone from an actual Pacific island, like, you really, it's not that simple. Like, it's not that simple. But just like, he wants to sail to Tahiti. Let them sail.
Totally. Just let them go. It's fine.
Her mentioning that she wants to sail to Tahiti, though, was like, that to me was too much. Like, that was like the same as the ending of 500 Days of Summer where he meets Autumn, where you're just like, oh, for God's sakes, like your eyes just roll. You're like, I can't, like, whatever reality you had built for this movie for the last 90 minutes has just crumbled instantaneously. Like, I could not deal with that. That was one step too far. This is my favorite episode so far of the 4 that we've watched. I had a lot of fun with this one.
No, there's a lot of
there's
stuff.
a lot coming.
Yeah, there's a lot coming up, but there's so much. I was so pleasantly surprised rewatching this one that we do get to see Shailene Woodley as Caitlin Cooper in this. I was like, I know she's in the first couple episodes. Is she in the debut? I don't know. Let's keep watching. And I was like, yes. Like, I picked well.
Her pony China, like this poor pony named China.
That pony
right?
has alopecia. It's so sad.
Yeah. the little bits, that's the other thing that I think the OC gets right, is that there's just bits that become things throughout. Like the alopecia pony China. We get like in the second season, I think there's like a comic that comes up. We see like, there's a whole thing with Seth's horse, but there's more things happening, but just like those little bits. My favorite bit that is not really explicit, but it's just kind of a thing, is the Cohen's bagel slicer in their kitchen. Just like the amount of times like you walk in there, it's breakfast, and like, Sandy's going to town on an everything bagel with schmear. It's just like anytime you see it, just like take a shot, pour one out, because it is it's the most used prop. And it just like every time I see one of those bagel slicers, I'm like, this is the Cohen's. Yeah. This is the Cohen's kitchen right here.
Like, here we go. We're ready.
Here we go.
When I was trying to remember, A, when I was watching the show, and then B, what was going on, I was obviously like on IMDb looking up everyone. And you mentioned this a little bit, but about Anna's age. But I was like, oh, they're all older than I am. Like,
yeah.
I was like, wait a minute. But I was in college and they're all older than I am, and they're playing high school. Oh yeah, I forgot that we used to do that. Like,
that was literally what ran through my head. Was I just saw the actress who played Anna was in her early 40s, and I was like, well, I know for a fact that this started like right as I was finishing high school, going to college, so that math already is like broken.
Right. Well, and then it's like some of them are the same age as people on Dawson's Creek, and by this point in Dawson's Creek, the characters were already in college too. Yeah. So I'm like, there's just nothing. And then all of a sudden, Misha Barton was born in 86. And I'm like, she's the outlier.
Yes.
Like, she's the actual teen in this.
And now we have like a show that I have been openly obsessed with since it came out. But like High School Musical, the series on Disney Plus, like those are all age appropriate kids for the most part. It's like they're 18, 19-year-olds playing 16, 17-year-olds. It's like, cool, that checks.
Which is always kind of unsettling. Like when you grew up in the 90s and you're used to watching people who are like 25 being like, it's my 16th birthday today and I'm sad.
No.
Like, it's just like, it's very jarring. And then you see like an actual teen and you're like, what?
Yeah.
Are you 12? Like,
why'd they cast this 10-year-old to play a high schooler? It doesn't make any sense.
Yeah.
The funniest thing, just to the High School Musical, the series of it all, is I've been re-listening to, Joe, you did my favorite episode of where Julie and Kathleen were obsessed with that show as much as I was, and we would do constant updates on it. And I was listening to one of the first ones that they brought up, and they were talking about all the cast, and like, all this cast is great except for this Olivia Rodrigo girl. Like, I just don't think that she has the star power of the rest of the cast. And now it's like, oh, you mean the person who's going to take T Swift's throne in about 5 years? Like, it's so funny how off we were on our thoughts on that show. But yeah, like the age of the cast is insane. I do a Christmas podcast, and we just recorded an episode on I'll Be Home for Christmas, the Jonathan Taylor Thomas movie, and our brains were shattered when we realized that they are all high schoolers in a boarding school, because it's like, how did 3 kids all from the same area of New York end up at the same boarding school in California, just able to drive cross country at 17 to go back home? Like, none of this adds up to my brain in the slightest. Like, the 90s into the 2000s was a wild time for doing anything that involved high school students.
Yeah. Just a crazy time in general. And then also it's like, oh God, these girls, their poor fashion. Like, the fashion of the early 2000s is just so tragic, just so upsetting. Like, why do you always want to see, like, I mean, I'm not a straight guy, but like, why do you always want to see like below a belly button of a girl, like that strip? It's like the skirts are like on your hip bones, and then like your shirt comes to the top of your belly button. And I'm like, why is this the part of the body that we are highlighting in the early 2000s?
As the only straight man on the call, I don't know. I can't explain it.
What's happening? Like, what's going on here?
I know. And especially on Misha Barton, who, like, you know, I mean, Misha Barton tragically, I should say, has, like, you know, ended up having her own issues with her body later. I wonder to what end, because, like, you see how they shoot her and and how they dress her, and it's like, they need to do like a little guest credit for like the hip bone on her like on her like left hip, because it's always there. And I also too, I'm just like, I mean, am I obsessed with that area as a gay man? I guess, but like not in this way where, like, you know, with the belly and all of that stuff. Like, it's just, it makes them also look shorter. That's the other thing. I mean, it's not proportioning them correctly.
No, it's just, but that's the thing. It's like all the TikToks and tweets about, like, man, they were just trying to kill millennial girls, like, as far like society was. Cause it's like all the comments to Marissa from her mom, from Julie, about like her body shape and like what size she is. And like, if that hairstyle looks good on her face and stuff. And it's like, of course that's going to affect me, a teen watching the show, and then also the actress playing her, probably, you know? Like, it's just it's so upsetting. It's such a weird, such a weird, upsetting thing.
It makes me so overwhelmingly jealous of the kids who are Gen Z right now with like the positive reinforce, like, again, to bring up like High School Musical, the series again for one quick second, but like, you literally have a show where it's like, half the cast, their characters are just openly bi or openly gender fluid, and like it's not like we have to do a coming out story about this. It's just like, that's who they are, and everyone just accepts that about them. And like, why would we do a coming out story about this? Like, that's not what this is about. Or like the fact that the bigger girls in the show still have boyfriends and are not depicted as like the pathetic big girl that no one loves. Like, kids right now who are in high school are actually getting these shows where it's just like, you can be happy just as you are. Like, versus absolutely growing up as a kid, every show was like, whether you were a guy or a girl, like, the girls got the attractiveness thing thrusted upon them, and like the guy stuff was like, don't you want to be just like Zach Morris? Isn't he the coolest? And it's like, now you're just like, no, he fucking sucks. He's a terrible person.
He's a horrible person.
That's the one thing the reboot gets right.
Yes, that's true.
Sorry, I love the Saved by the Bell reboot.
So do
I think it's the best. It's like, it's how you do a reboot when you, especially because, like, given how hold on, this has turned into the Saved by the Bell reboot. Like, it's like it deals with Josie Tota actually being trans and having her be trans on the show, the race situation of it all, the problematic nature of being like a white man, and also jokes. Like
Yes.
we don't have enough TV shows that have jokes. I took a video of it and I've been sending it to people since I saw it, but there's a line that Josie Tota has in the show where it's just like, you know, if your dreams don't scare you, then they're not big enough. I read that once on an ad for a dildo. I was like, this is amazing writing, and the delivery is just so spot on. But we get jokes.
Yes.
We get jokes, and also like to go back and comment, Matt. Like you have to also think about the people who are writing TV, and Erin, you can probably speak to this too. The people who are writing TV, like we always do what we needed, right?
Yeah.
We become who we needed then.
Yeah.
Writers are writing the things that we like need, like they needed that.
Yeah.
Like we didn't need Marissa Cooper and Summer, you know, barbecuing in a bikini with their hip bones hanging out. We need like, you know, I'm a big girl and I got a boyfriend, and that's not even the most interesting thing about me.
Yeah, totally. I mean, another teen drama fave of mine is Dawson's Creek, and when I rewatch that show, which I do all the time, I'm like, oh, it's so weird how they're constantly like, Joey is plain. And I'm like, Katie Holmes is one of the prettiest people I've ever seen.
Well, it may have been you. I think it was you on Best of Friends that was the person who revealed to me the Joey Pacey whole thing of it all, which like puts such a whole new spin on watching that show, knowing that like, oh, this was originally written as two guys, and like it changes the tone of that completely as like what Kevin Williamson was trying to do with those characters. But I agree with you, like the amount of I mean the she's all that of it all, you know what I mean? Like it's like, oh, Rachel Lee Cook, one of the most beautiful women I've ever seen in my life, but she's got like paint, like they nailed that so much in Not Another Teen Movie where she's like, oh no, the paint stained overalls and the glasses, oh god, like she's stunning.
I know. But it's just like, it's like a wonder anyone made it out of that era alive with like any sense of like self-esteem or like any ability to do anything. It's like we're all just sitting here just fighting for our lives.
Oh yeah, no, there's definitely a reason why everyone in our age demographic is seeing a therapist. Like all of our entire self-being was demoralized by pop culture during the most important years of our lives. Like that's why we all have podcasts.
No, but I do think that the point about Saved by the Bell reboot, as far as the writing staff, like I think now like people actually make a point to hire a diverse writing staff. You know, like. You do something. And I do think the interesting thing about the OC is that Josh Schwartz was so young when this show happened. Like, he was 27, I think. And so it's like there's a lot of things that are like, obviously, I don't want to like discredit the OC too much because there are a lot of things that are like really like groundbreaking and interesting on that show. I don't think that we remember now that this show, I was joking that the show invented music and TV shows, which I do think is true, but it kind of invented like the parallel parent storylines. Like the parents are like a big part of the OC and a fabric of like the storytelling. And now like that kind of happens like throughout like other teen dramas, you know, that they weren't doing that on Dawson's Creek. We don't.
No, there's like the benign neglect that you see in like, you see it a lot in like horror movies, right? It's the benign neglect of the parents who were only focused on the kids. But what this does, and especially in the later seasons, like especially in seasons 2 and 3, when like, you know, things really start happening for everyone else. And and also too, like, I mean, you have like Melinda Clark, you have Peter Gallagher. They are. You have to do something with them. We're going to see Caleb Nickel come in soon a little bit, like Alan Dale. Like you have to be able to do something along those lines because, and it's just so interesting how, like you said, like I think this show like innovates that in a very specific way, in that you can't see teen soap operas like anymore without like these kind of dual
Yeah.
storylines. It becomes a moment where it's like, okay, what is the big cliffhanger? What is the moment that people are going to talk about? And especially like this comes at the perfect time of like the advent of YouTube and meme culture becoming a thing. I mean, it's the most famous moment of the funniest SNL sketches, Dear Sister, but like specifically coming from this moment. Like you don't see that again until maybe the Red Wedding.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, totally.
Yeah.
That's a really good point.
Why take one vacation with the family when you could take all of them? With Royal Caribbean, you don't just go to the beach. You visit a private island and race down the tallest water slide in North America. You don't just go for a road trip. You ATV and zip line through the jungle. You don't just go somewhere new. You rappel down waterfalls and discover ancient temples. Because this isn't just any vacation. This is all the vacations. Come seek the Royal Caribbean. Ships Registry, Bahamas.
This episode is brought to you by Bumble, who says Valentine's Day is just for couples. Just because you're not in a relationship doesn't mean you can't get out there and live your best love life. That's where Bumble comes in. This February 14th, you can flip the script and give those relationshippers a friendly dose of FOMO. Say no to staying in this Valentine's Day and yes to more. More dates, more first kisses, more gossip for the group chat girlies. Do Valentine's your way. Date now on Bumble.
Do you like to laugh, geek out on music, and learn all about that band or artist who had that one song back in the day, but then seemed to fall off the face of the earth? If so, you need to subscribe to One Hit Thunder. Together with an array of interesting and hilarious guests, we do a weekly dive into one-hit wonders like Eiffel 65's Blue, Krayshawn's Gucci Gucci, EMF's Unbelievable, Delamitri's Roll to Me, Los Del Rio's Macarena, Musical Youth's Pass the Dutchie, and even Patrick Swayze's She's Like the Wind. So are you subscribed to One Hit Thunder or what? As Desiree would say, you gotta be. And as K7 would encourage, you gotta come, baby, come and join in on the fun of the One Hit Thunder podcast.
Come, baby, come, baby, baby, come, come. Come, baby, come, baby, baby, come.
Erin's learning about every podcast that I host because I feel like every topic change, I'm like, and on this other show that I do. But, doing the One Hit Wonder podcast, like we talked about Phantom Planet and like the power of the OC is like, this is going to blow some of y'all minds. California didn't chart on the Billboard charts, like, because that was released as a single 2 years before the OC. Yeah. So that band would have been just like random footnote of like, hey, that guy from Rushmore was also in this indie rock band that no one's ever heard of. And then this show comes out and like this theme song becomes like, this is the first time I've ever watched the OC and I knew, oh yeah, the theme song's that California song from Phantom Planet, because it was like inescapable after that.
Yeah.
Like it shifted so much. And you do have a good point. It was the advent of like when I think the OC, to a certain extent, also Dawson's Creek, but like this is also like around Scrubs where you're really getting these TV show soundtracks where it's like, it's not like the Friends soundtrack, right? Like the Friends soundtrack comes out and it's like, hey, here's I'll Be There For You, and like some songs that you maybe vaguely remember hearing in the background of a scene.
With or without you.
Yeah, like it's like,
I mean, I have the Friends soundtrack, but
yeah, same. Yeah. But it's like, it's got those little pieces of it for sure. But like, this is where it's like, you're looking at, say, Scrubs is my favorite show of all time, but like you're looking at something like Scrubs where it's like, every one of those episodes ends with a song that ties everything together in such a giant way that like I can't listen to half of those songs and not distinctly remember the scene in Scrubs in which the song was played in, because that music became a centerpiece to what was happening. So we do a segment on here which was like, what was the song of the episode? So this one, there was 4 songs that showed up in this episode. We had Liz Phair's Why Can't I, which plays when Marissa and Summer just talking about Ryan.
Yep.
We've got Leon Ness's Lazy Days, which plays when Ryan is helping out Marissa. We've got Brassy's Play Some D, which is the party soundtrack. Mm-hmm. And then at the very end, when Ryan and Marissa are talking outside, is Smashing Pumpkins To Sheila. So I'm curious. I think Erin gave a little bit of a hint with her hand placement when I said one of those. But what to you is like the song of this episode?
Well, it's more like I as soon as I heard the beginning, I was like, Liz Phair. Like it was just like shot to the heart. Like that Liz Phair album I was listening to so much in college, so much at the time when this was on, that it was just like an immediate like time travel thing. And it's just for a moment, but it's just like that was so important to me and so good to hear in this episode. I made a note of it. It was like it's like a whole thing.
Yeah. Girls and gay men, like, you know, the longing in why can't I? Yeah, like it's, if nothing, because I mean, this has nothing to do with like diegetically how it fits into the episode, more than I just love the song.
Same. Yeah,
So,
same.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I've never heard the Smashing Pumpkins song before. But when that scene was playing, I'm like, okay, yeah, I could see this being a song that next time I hear it, I'm like, oh, this is that song from that scene in the OC.
Yeah.
Whereas with that Liz Phair song, yeah, it's a great song. I've heard it a trillion times outside of the context of the OC, where I could completely forget that was the song that was playing in that sequence when they're discussing Ryan. Which is cool because this time they got to talk about Ryan and it didn't turn into weird like homophobic prison jokes, which is big score for Marissa and Summer.
Oh my God, the Luke of it all. I'm just like, oh God. And it's funny because Chris Cormack is on Grey's Anatomy now, one of my top favorite shows that I've been watching since college as well. And so I see him all the time, and I've been able to wash early Luke from my memory of him. So then having to watch the beginning of the OC again and be like, oh no, Luke, oh God, this is terrible.
They really typecast him.
Yes.
They really typecast him. They were just like, okay, you're like big burly, very mask presenting, right? Like you're gonna be the asshole. We do get a turn a little bit later.
Yes.
Something to look forward for you, Matt. Like it'll be my favorite episode that we talk about this season for many reasons.
There's something I always say from there's a Seth line that I always say.
Here, hold on, I'll take my headphones off.
Yeah, take your headphones off. Okay.
I am constantly going, Luke has a gay dad. Luke has a gay dad. It's so funny. It's when they go see Rooney and he's in the back of the thing and he's screaming for Rooney.
Yeah, he's like, Rooney!
Like, it just makes me laugh so much.
Oh my God. Matt, you're fine. You can come back. Okay. Sorry. Well, also, like, Erin also reminded me that, like, we have, like, there are going to be that trope, right, of aughts, like, of aughts teen soap operas where like the band, everyone's going to see the band.
Oh yes.
And like it's all about the band. Death Cab comes up.
Yep.
We're gonna get like the Killers is gonna. There's like a venue that comes up in season 2. Yes, right.
I forgot about the Killers. Oh my God.
Yes, it's all hot. Like they're just playing Hot Fuss,
Yes.
and I was just like, first of all, Hot Fuss, perfect album. Ugh. But like to see it be the whole episode is amazing.
Oh my God!
So it's kind of similar to like my favorite piece of watching old Buffy episodes is just like, what random band did they get to play the Bronze this week? Like, all right, cool.
Yep, it's the Bronze. It's the Peach Pit After Dark.
Yeah,
because I only watched 90210 like in the later seasons. Like once I was in like, it was on until 2000. So yeah, once I was in late middle school. So I only watched like the very late episodes, which is when they do Peach Pit After Dark and like Bare Naked Ladies comes and plays one and stuff.
See, Gilmore Girls tries it, like,
but it's the Bangles. They got to see the Bangles.
Well, no. It's season 4. So my favorite season of Gilmore Girls is season 4. Season 4, Rory's at Yale. They go to spring break for the first time with Paris, and the Strokes are in the bar.
That's right.
And it's just like. Part of me is just like, how much did like Amy Sherman Palladino hate doing this? Like, absolutely hate giving the WB this.
Well, you and I talked about in episode 2 the weirdness of like Marissa naming all of these like crazy 80s hardcore punk bands while listening to Rooney. Like, it's like, what is that?
Yeah.
Like, someone who's driving around listening to Rooney is not also well versed in Black Flag and Bad Brains. Like, those are not two worlds that intersect that much. Erin, you have been a delightful guest. Is there anything that you want to real quick plug before we go into our pop culture promo to end up the episode?
I don't do a lot these days. No, I do a lot, but I don't know. If you do want to hear about Dawson's Creek, I do a series on Instagram where I basically do like a 1-person video recap of Dawson's Creek episodes, and I'm in season 5, so it's pretty wacky at this point. So I do that on my Instagram. That's about it.
One of the many great shows that ends with someone selling the concept of the show.
Yes.
It's like my favorite TV show trope of all time.
It's brilliant. It's brilliant.
All right. So as we always say, when the OC happened, it was a giant pop culture moment. So much so that even with me not watching it, I was aware of its existence and of its characters and everything. So we always try to end the show talking about something that was also a giant pop culture moment that you are currently obsessed with, be it something from the past or something happening currently. I'll kick this one off because at the time that we're recording this, I have watched Weird, the Al Yankovic story on Roku, and it is so much funnier than I could have ever dreamed or imagined it being. The way that it deconstructs what a movie biopic can be is insane, and I don't think we'll ever have another situation like this where the person that the biopic is about is writing the biopic and just making a mockery of their entire life's work. Like, it's insane. It's an insane thing to look at.
I loved it. Yeah, it was so fun.
So again, as of watching this, we are almost halfway through season 2 of The White Lotus. And so far what I'm loving is the fact that like when gay Twitter finds out that a person is hot, it's like they've never seen a hot person for the first time. So like the weird internet discourse about like is Theo James's dick real? Which like, I mean, HBO literally has a show with dragons. Like it's immaterial whether or not it's real. It's because either way we're probably wrong. But also like Will Sharp, who like the internet discovering who Will Sharp is, specifically gay Twitter discovering who Will Sharp is, and like being completely obsessed with like his Happy Trail torso in the shower, Adam DeMarco's ass. Like, it's very like, first of all, God bless bisexual king Mike White for all of this. But at the same time, it's just like the like hardcore standing that we're seeing like days after these episodes is just been hilarious to watch. So that's at the moment currently what I'm obsessed about.
So I went back. I stopped watching this show, and then I went back, and in the last like 2 weeks at the time of recording, I have caught up to current, and it's Riverdale.
Oh.
It is the single craziest thing I've ever seen in my life. And I've watched all of season 5 and 6 in the last 2 weeks. And the way season 6 ends, my best friend had already watched it, and she was like, just keep watching. It gets even crazier. You're not even prepared for how crazy season 6 gets. And I was like, calm down. Like, I'm sure I'm prepared. I was not prepared. Even as you're watching season 6, the what happens in the finale is so crazy, and it just is a different show that I'm like fascinated, and I'm all in for the final season. I'm like, great, can't wait to watch season 7. I'm gonna watch it every week. I'm gonna like read recaps of it. I can't wait. It is insane. We need to be talking about this again. Like, this is weird. Like, it's there's time travel and like superpowers. Like, it is crazy. It is
musical episodes.
It's constantly a musical. My husband, we all work from home, and he's constantly upstairs like, can you turn Riverdale down? Because I won't be paying attention. And it's like, they're in a full musical number and it's suddenly like 8 decibels louder than I meant it to be. And I'm like, oh, they're singing constantly. And he's like, is it a musical now? And I'm like, no, it's just sometimes a full episode is a musical. And sometimes like they're just singing in the middle of an episode. Like it's just, it doesn't matter. There are no rules. No rules.
I feel like Sabrina hit that level too out of nowhere where they're just like, yeah, there's just going to be songs for the sake of songs. Enjoy it.
Yeah. I mean, see, like I also stopped watching Riverdale after season 1 because then it just got too much. Yep. But I finished Chilling Adventures of Sabrina and I was like, okay, I can believe everything works because like magic, right? If Riverdale, like I can't because like it's supposed to just be the town. Like it's just supposed to be a town with people and Archie's hot.
They're just like, nope, it's all rules. Like there's no grounded rules of this universe, and it used to annoy me, and now I'm like, you know what, you're right. This is great. Sure.
Yeah.
Do whatever you want.
I read something. It was like one of those BuzzFeed listicles that was like, the 57 most wild things that have ever happened on a TV show. And I love reading those, especially if I've never seen like the episodes they're talking about. And there's the one about Riverdale where they said, yeah, Archie confesses to a murder just because he wanted the trial to be over. And I was like, that is bananas.
But there's also like the whole list could have been just Riverdale moments.
Yeah.
Because there's just a million of them. There's infinite.
It's also one of those shows, and this happens in a lot of TV shows and movies actually, where you're just like, why does no one leave this town if so much bad shit happens all the time?
Okay, but did you ever think sometimes it's that there's a curse on the town and they can't leave?
That's true. Yeah,
which does also happen.
It could be a wizard did it type situation.
At some point, they just started like watching episodes of Buffy and like stealing plot points and being like, it's fine if we put it in this non-supernatural show, right? And then they just went with it. They're just like,
the part that was the hardest hurdle for me when I decided to watch all of Riverdale on a whim was like, how am I supposed to buy that people are still just calling this man Jughead to his face? This like this unspeakably gorgeous man, and you're just like, hey, Jughead, come over here.
Like, sometimes Jug.
Yeah, Jug. The nickname everyone dreams of, Jug. Yeah.
Yes. I just like the sister Jellybean, right? Is that her name?
Yeah. Also, like Skeet Ulrich just left the show. He just pieces out at one point. Like it's just kind of like he left. I don't know.
Yeah, he had to be awkwardly CGI'd into young Skeet Ulrich for the newest Scream movie. So he's like, I can't possibly be on Riverdale.
My favorite thing. God.
The lowest point in an otherwise very good attempt at a reboot to the Scream franchise. I was just like, what the fuck is that?
I loved it. He's just in the back of the car like, hey, daughter. I'm like, sure.
Yeah,
do it.
Hey, daughter. It was very, I love Jack Quaid. Like, I loved him before I knew who his parents were, and now I love him because, like, oh, you're Meg Ryan's son.
I know.
We're overdue for like a You've Got Mail situation, but like you and then like, a daughter of Tom Hanks or something like that.
Yes. Oh, that's great.
I think, yeah.
Maybe it's like Margaret Qualley.
Yes.
Maybe it's like Jack Quaid and Margaret Qualley. I'm just spitballing.
Yes. Come on.
Be into that.
We'll get the pitch down. Yeah. It'll be great. Like.
Well, once again, thank you so much for joining us, Erin. This was so much fun. We will certainly have you back on if you want to talk more OC in the future.
All I ever want to do is recap episodes of shows. So
Can I ask what if you were to come back, what are the 2 episodes you would want to come back for?
If I could think of any episode, anything with Olivia Wilde.
Okay. Season 2 then.
Anything with Olivia Wilde and like kind of anything. Oh, that guy, that New Year's episode with what's his face, that horrible guy who's also on Dawson's Creek, that actor.
And it's in season 1.
Yes.
Like we're like 10 episodes away from it. Like that's the beauty of this. I completely did not think that
I
it's
thought
still in
that was
season
season
1.
2. Oh my god.
No, it is like middle season 1. It's like mid-season finale.
They really,
season
this
1.
is why it's a comet. It shines bright and then it immediately, like, the OC is just,
The way you guys talk about this show, it feels like it's 4 seasons in name only, and it is actually like the beats of 8 to 9 seasons
Yeah.
of television.
Yes. We don't make TV like this
No.
anymore. Like to binge watch the OC is exhausting because like we haven't had the week to process the fact that like all Ryan's doing is getting into fights.
yes.
Yeah.
So like we don't make it, and even like the White Lotus or any TV that is made right now that's immediately on a streaming service, like they're still thinking about it from a bingeable standpoint. So like
Yep.
you can watch like all of White Lotus season 1 and like believe that the characters like and it works even when you're doing it in the serialized form. So like with this, it's exhausting.
It is.
Like by season 2, you're like in the binge that I did during COVID, I was like, I'm exhausted, and I don't know if it's COVID or if I'm just like fatigued out from watching like 40 minutes of the show.
Yeah.
every day.
I am glad that our recording schedule is typically 2 episodes at a time, back to back, because usually by the time that second episode in a row is hit, I'm like, all right, I need to sit down. Let me watch the newest episode of Survivor or something. Like I need to decompress a little bit. All right, well, we will be back next week with even more OC.
You're listening to the Geekscape Network.